All right, here we go. Welcome to the June 12th regular school board meeting. At this time, would you all please rise? Join with me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Contrary to the weather, it is summer, school is out. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome everyone to this JCSD 1 regular school board meeting for June. Even though it is summer break, the district has been super busy. ELC conferences, budgets, hiring, maintenance, planning, taking classes, summer school, state meetings, and that list goes on and on. So again, I appreciate everybody being here. Whether you're attending in person, on online streaming, or on 307 net. This time I ask you to make sure your cell phones are off, of course. Before we go into public comment, if we have any, I'd like to introduce Jackie Gallagher. She will be our new reporter from the Buffalo Bulletin. Jackie, you're from where in Louisiana?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah. So she's in a huge culture shock here. We do not have humidity.
No.
And we usually don't have this much rain. So we welcome you.
I guess I brought it with me. I don't know.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Roll call. Jody will be here in just a few minutes. So with that, everybody is here. No public comment, like we've said. May I have a motion to accept first? Do we have any addition to the agenda? So may I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
A second, please.
I'll second.
The discussion. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and we'll go with our agenda. Okay. Now this is something we haven't done in the past, so if I'm a little rough here, we will get through this. May I have a motion to enter into the mill levy hearing?
So moved.
And I made it's actually the intent for mill levy. It's the same. So, all those in favor of entering into the mill levy hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we are now officially into the mill levy hearing. Connie, you want to help us kind of get through this?
Yes. What we decided Wednesday at the work session is to keep a new tradition of having an intent levy. And we'll do that in May. If you guys are okay with that, and we'll do a public levy hearing in May with the intent to levy a mill levy for the Johnson County Rec Board and half a mill for the BOCHES. Now, that is what you would have to decide in your motion later in the meeting. But this is for a public comment. If anybody wanting to discuss or talk to you about the mill levies that you will be approving later on in the meeting.
This is where they would do that if they have a comment. So you can make your comment.
It's just in looking at, because I don't think that most people really do. We are giving the YMCA $70,000 a year for our kids to use the pool. That's outrageous.
Can I tell you that that's actually, believe it or not, cheap? Whereas Cody is over almost $1 billion. I think it's like 90, excuse me. we're giving 70, excuse me, almost 100,000. That's
Yeah, almost 100 would give.
Yeah. That would be Cody and Powell. It got so expensive for them at their place, they decided to go to Cody.
So we have 60,000 won. $15,000 to repair an irrigation system at the golf course, which is a private entity.
No, it's not.
Well, it's a city entity, but it's run on its own. It's
Randy?
definitely not a school
Are these,
golf course.
is this from last year? Or is this year's proposed one?
These are the approved 2022.
These are last year's expenses. They aren't this year's.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, we can't get the.
We haven't seen those.
$20,000 to the outdoor pool. And I'm just going over some of the big dollar amounts. $15,000 for the trail system. $3,000 for YMCA membership support. $10,000 to the Bond Mountain Civic Center. $15,000 to the fair board. The problem that I have is we're laying $400,000 ish, right? So to give or take $400,000 is what we're.
255,000 ish. I'm sorry, no, you're right. Sorry, I'm thinking of Boches. No, you're right. 510,000.
So we're taking $500,000 from the county. And then and then we're giving it to this pool. And a lot of it has nothing to do firsthand with the school. And then have no accountability for any of this money. So the golf course says that they're spending $15,000 on irrigation system. And two, I have no idea if they are spending $15,000 on that or something else.
So can I clear that up a little bit? I know I'm very new on the rec board, but there is a process that everyone who gets a grant, then they have to, before they can get that money, they tell us what they're spending it on, obviously. We approve it, and then they need to submit all of their receipts for their project.
Okay.
So there is very clear accountability of where their money is being spent. They have to be extremely specific when it comes to every place that they're going to spend their money, whether it be 7 strikes and they cost this much money, or one, light station that cost this.
So how do we account for food?
As in the YMCA or the city?
Either one.
Well, that's a good question, because I don't know. I mean, I guess let's be
I'm not
honest.
asking you specifically. You have to be able to figure out. And this is aside from just the record stuff. If $50,000 is, and that's just what you're getting from the record, I think we have it.
I don't think so. It's not real. That's why we've gone to it. Otherwise, we would have to.
Well, I would just swim. If that were the case. But that's outrageous to spend that much money and to a private company. But we're spending it for the students, and if they can reconcile that amount and say here's what that money goes to, and that's fine. But I would definitely like to see it. But I'm not gonna support this. We're playing a shell game with tax money under our name, and we're basically using the school district to tax the county because there's no other we're just, just like you told us the other day, we are a vehicle. And that's what we're being used as. And I think it's wrong. I think most of the general public does know about it. And
Just so you know, like the golf course can do too.
So Jim,
Boy and girl golf teams use it, all use it.
and how much money do we spend?
We don't actually pay. My understanding
No,
is.
everything we do
our
there is
kids-
free.
Yes,
For me.
the golf
But
course does
what I'm-
not charge.
What I'm saying is for the 10 kids that are on the golf course, how many kids do we have on the golf course? That were us, if green fees and that kind of stuff can't, if help with that, then we can help them with that. But I don't need to put in a new irrigation system. And that's where it gets shady to me, is we're funding our golf team with this, but we're basically renovating the golf course, which is a public golf course. And this is what got a lot of people outraged when it was, they tried to tack on the additional mill here a few years ago that everybody got pissed off about because all these pet projects were added onto it. And that's exactly what we're looking at. It's just a bunch of different, an assortment of odds and ends that don't really have anything to do with that, you can round about, say that can benefit kids in some.
so I'll just add my 2 cents to it. So it's actually a tax, which for the average taxpayer probably amounts to $25 to $30 a year. Okay, so you tax this. The county couldn't do it because they had already levied all of their mills. So they asked the school district to do it. Maybe I'm telling you guys stuff you already know. So they asked the school district to do it, okay? So the school district wanted some accountability. So that's why the school district appoints the entire board. And then when Grace Gosar was on there, there's a few things she didn't like, and then that's when we started appointing someone from the school board on. Okay, so remember, the rec district funds recreation for all ages of people. From little kids to the school, to older people. That's why you have a pool. That's why you have the golf course, whatnot. When the YMCA was built, they knew it was never a standalone entity. It was going to need help from the taxpayer, which everybody agreed to. The YMCA is a great asset to this community. It's people. The Bighorn Mountains are great. Buffalo's a beautiful place, but when people look to move here, they look to see what you have in the YMCA attracts people. We have the Boys and Girls Club, which, if I remember, I got about $90,000 last year. So we give a lot of money to a lot of different things, but it's all for recreation for our community, and it's the taxpayers who fund it, not the school. The school could levy this mill to where they want to levy it, but they decided a long time ago that the school had enough to do, so let's appoint a board and let them deal. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else?
I also took a long hard look. I was not quite of the understanding of exactly how it worked. So after our explanation on Wednesday night, took a long hard look and looked at the last year's the proposals, what was being proposed, and then what was given out. And I am in agreement with Randy on some certain things. I do understand that it is for all ages and that they did agree at one time. However, times have changed. And I think that people are hopefully paying better attention. And however, a majority of everything that was given out last year was something to do with kids. I appreciate the fact that they do offer transparency. However, I think that we as a board could come to some sort of an agreement on where we could, if it's something that we want to have a little bit better eye on and a little bit, better itemized, that we have the right to ask for that. And we have the right to see that. We will appoint the board, and I think that somehow we could come together as a team, and we can make this work better, and we can help them along. I understand that we appoint a board, to make the best decisions. However, all in all, we are the head of that board, and we're elected by the people. We are here to represent the people of this county and to be fiscally responsible with their funds. And so, while I do support a majority of this, I think that we can come together and figure out a way with the immigration board.
I think when we had that work session that Jack Carter was here, and he did give me the list of from the day one when this rec board was created, where everybody has been sent what has been given out. And he was not, he told me, please share this if they need it, and I feel terrible because I didn't know.
I'm not pointing fingers at anybody.
But I'm happy to do that every time, and if you guys want to go through it from the beginning to really see, because I looked at it thinking, how much is the school actually getting? And like I told Reedy, they really more than anyone else, and they have, for, you know, all of their programs that they do. But I guess that's another thing of if you want to support these kids with these things like this, or not at all.
So I think, Madam Chair, one of the things that if people are unclear of is go and look at their vision and mission statement. You can look at their bylaws, and you're welcome to look at any of that stuff any time because there is a deal called the Freedom of Information Act where it's public money, nobody can withhold you. So you can ask Jack or whoever you want to. It has to be for them.
Well, I will tell you this, I have 100% confidence in how the rec board is run. And Jack Carter has been the head of that, or is keeping books. He's been fully transparent. That's why we have Marcia on the board. So I think the rec board has done an excellent job of keeping us involved in what's happening. It's in the paper as to what every penny is spent. So I'm very comfortable with our rec board and how it's going. Anybody else?
Madam Chair. Just my own personal feeling about taxpayers' money, and I always have this thought of if you want nice things, you have to pay for them. We can't expect to, you know, have facilities in our community and not be able to support them. And personally, as a mom of 3 boys coming up and wanting other children to move here, I think it's very important that we help provide recreation in our community. But that's just my personal feelings on it, and you know, it's hard to make everything survive on its own and stand on its own. And if you don't like that, sometimes I feel like, well, maybe we shouldn't move to a community that other people want to support. But maybe I'm an outlier in that.
Wants to support the golf course, then they should support the golf course. If they want to support the YMCA, they should support the YMCA. The people that can't afford to, you know, probably the 90% of the general public that can't afford being members at the YMCA aren't members. And the fact that they can't afford to do that and aren't members, and there's a very select small percentage of people that are members of the YMCA, that's why they need to funnel money from the school district to support the maintenance of their pools and the maintenance of their other programs. Same thing with the golf course. If the general public wants to support the golf course, and this is what the community said when they overwhelmingly, you know, voted against the tax effort this last time. They didn't want to support the Walnut Mountain cities. They didn't want to support Joco. They didn't want to support all these projects like the golf course. Because if you want to support those projects, let those people that utilize those facilities let them support. That's what they said then. That's what I believe now is, yeah, if we don't spend things on nice things, we can't have nice things. But there's a vast amount of people in this community that can afford to spend money on these things. And so just because some people can afford it, and then most people can't afford it, doesn't mean that we should subsidize it or even still select few, because we're subsidizing the YMCA, we're subsidizing the golf course. You still have to pay a fee to get in. You still have to pay a membership to be called the shell game. Yeah, it's public information, but as you know, just being involved in the school board, the public doesn't pay attention to everything. So, if there's a blurb in there about, the different allotments that were, grant allotments that were awarded by the rec district, most of the public is not paying attention to that. But that's,
Randy, there is, if you do go on to the rec board website, it does everything on there too. I don't know if you took.
No, I'm not saying anything about, transparency, or I understand that all of that is. What I'm saying is, I think the general public would be, I don't have the word, if they understood how much money we're giving the YMCA just to let our swing team practice proportionately. Same thing with the school district buying or spending to, I don't know what they're doing with the irrigation system, but if that's their irrigation system or something like that, if I as a Joe Public understood that the school district was paying for the golf course to repair their irrigation system.
I don't know anything about that because that's not when I was on the board.
Yeah.
I do know what they're asking for this year, and it's very much all for the school. And I also, when you say that it was very overwhelming in that vote, that was a special election vote, so I don't think that can be really a true indicator of how the public feels. That was pushed through extremely quickly. And how many people even come? I mean, if you look at the total, how many people came out to vote for that special election, it wasn't that many. It was not like, if they would have had that on a regular ballot on a regular election year, I think then we could have a more honest answer. I don't think, I disagree with that.
The Joko first and the Bomber Mountain people.
Okay, let's kind of get back to our rec.
So, Madam Chair, just for clarification too, it's not only just a swim team that they provide to swim for the elementary and some.
Yeah, all different.
So recusal facilities.
That's another lot. Wasn't that like an additional 10 or 20 grand?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure they are supporting the school and the swim team.
I really disagree with your idea, Michelle. It makes it sound like being sneaky, and they are not. Everything is transparent. This is how they decide the rec board in this state is going to function. And they just happen, am I right? They just happen to give the mill to the school to disperse it. But it is not a shell game. I really, truly think that is not the way it should be.
And we did not receive the
vote.
money.
So would it help, Madam Chair, if we sat with the administration next year and we kind of outline some of the benefits for each one of the buildings in the schools? Some of this information.
But you have to remember, it's not for the schools. The school is, I'll use Connie's word, they're the vehicle. This is not a mill for the schools. If the school is able to appropriate the mill, it's for the community. It's not for our community, it's also for the KC community. It is for recreation for every age of kid. And you take the Boys and Girls Club, I think they got $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. I think you guys allotted to them last year. They're not a standalone entity. And, Scott Musselman, when he took over, had like 20 kids. Now they're up to about 100. It's huge. And I don't think that the kids that go there, families can afford to pay for that to keep that open. But it's a great asset for this community.
And Dave, I'm not going against it. I'm just saying that's questions I'm hearing from you as a board. You want to know what's happening. If you heard my comment at the Wednesday work session, that's what I talked about.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
It was an extended thing. So what I'm hearing from you as a board of trustees is you have a question, how is it impacting kids? If you need me as the superintendent to find that information, but I'm just trying to help.
what, but that was my overall problem, was this is not about the kids, i.e. Johnson County School District. It's about the community. And again, and so that's where I call it a shell game, is we're taking tax money and we're shuffling it over here.
We are, the school district is not. The school district is
Then
not
we
taking.
shouldn't have anything to do with it.
The city, county, and school districts
Then-
are the ones that get to take this mill, because the county
Just
couldn't do
because-
it because they'd already levied all their mills.
So because they used up all their tax money, we're going to have for their problems. That's what you're saying.
But honestly, Randy, let's just say that the school said, we're not gonna levy this mill. And I wish Bridget was here. I don't know that you can get rid of it. I think that the county or city may be able to take it over and levy it through themselves rather than through the school.
Being that there's no public comment, maybe we should ask the public hearing.
So, well, we've had an agreement. I feel like everybody has, not everybody had their say, so. We have would you please review the bill intent that we want?
So, I created an intent to levy resolution, and I have two versions. The first version is, whereas on the 12th day of June 2023, the Board of Trustees, Johnson County School District Number 1, approved an intent to levy mills for Johnson County Recreation District, and the Sharon Johnson Boaching the fiscal year ending June 30, 2024. Now, the version is to approve the levy for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, and June 30th, 2025. Whereas a notice of such levy was published in the newspaper, a hearing was held, and so therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Johnson County District Number 1 that such an intent to levy is hereby approved and is in effect for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, or the other version is 2024 and June 30th, 2025. At Wednesdays,
And that would be only one time that we would do to the 25, and that is because the way now the legislature is getting it ready. Am I right?
correct. It's the way that, so now the companies are required to pay monthly. And so they're paying that monthly. But part of it is a deferred revenue because it's not levied on a certain time. So, property tax collected from July of 22, December of 22, and 22 mineral production are also recognized as deferred revenue in the fiscal year June 30, 2023. Property tax collected from January 2023 to June 23 is levied in August of 24 for the FY 25. So they're sitting on money that they received from January to June that really is deferred revenue. So it's really not theirs until the next time that's levied. So this way, the money they have can be spent because we've approved 2 years in a row. So every 2 years we would approve that, not just this one time. It would be every 2 years.
Okay, but every 2 years. So we would not do this next year, but we would do it the following. Correct. Okay. So we would not have a hearing then every year. Correct. Every 2 years.
Yeah, if we wrote it that resolution.
Okay. We will not be voting on this until we get to the action items. I think that's all clear. May I have a motion to adjourn the hearing?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of adjourning from the mill levy hearing, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we're now down to general reports. Mr. Oskey. All right, let's back. That's the first time we've done this, the hearing, and I really appreciate you coming out with your comments. And again, we can agree to disagree and keep moving forward. Thank you.
So with that, Madam Chair, is there any questions? I would like Mr. Mader, he is here, he has a spring activities report. I thought was well done. Ryan, you have anything you would add to that report here this evening?
No, I'd just like to highlight the end of the year celebrations. Our spring teams had a great year, both activities and athletics, with the regional championship for girls track and girls soccer was third at state. More importantly, on my side, one thing I like to celebrate towards the end of the year is our academic all-conference. Listed there, we had 6 student athletes there. That criteria I shared in there as well. The GPA, the ACT, which is kind of a factor, which eliminates a lot of kids from that. But still proud of the fact as we go to our May meeting as ADs and we put our kids up for that nomination criteria. Year in and year out, Buffalo High School leads our conference with those kids, which is a pretty proud factor there. We had some kids make some all-star games this summer. One of those, Cantrell Rosales, played last week in Wyoming-Montana all-star basketball game. You'll see her name in there quite a bit for the Basketball Coaches Association and the soccer. And we had 2 boys, Wynot Blake Bell, play in the Shrine Bowl this last weekend as well. So, super cool. In addition, 4 kids will be going on to athletics next year at college level. We had signings for them this year. Kind of a short media day at the high school, which is exciting for those guys and get some public relations out there. So, any questions?
I would like to say the people don't understand how difficult the academic all conferences are for athletes. You have to have a 25 on your ACT, and that gets a lot. In some years, we do not have it. And I was also impressed with how many athletes were out for 3 sports for 4 years. That's quite a commitment. So, well done. And I also like what you did at the awards. You had everybody stand up as you read off their involved, and I would say, 95% of the student body was standing.
Yeah. So I'm putting together I'd like to submit a July board report, similar to what I've done in the past with activity involvement and correlation to GPAs and ACT scores, as well as our year-end participation numbers from the entire year. So please look forward to that in July.
May I ask how many kids are in your summer program?
Our first week we had 80, 7 through 12.
7 through 12.
7 through 12, yeah. We actually have a lot of middle schoolers, which is exciting and fun, especially for us high school coaches who don't get to work with them. And so we went through 2 days of kind of preliminary tests, and then last week was our first official week. We're going Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings. We have 3 sessions, 6, 6:45, and 7:30. We wrap up by about 9 o'clock every day. Handful of about 6 to 8 coaches are there every morning in both the weight room and down on the track. Our kids got to ring the bell for the first time this morning, so they earned points. They're drafted in 4 teams, 7 through 12. We have our seniors as our team captains. They take attendance themselves, so they get 1 point for attendance those mornings. They also get, use a team builder app where they keep track of all their lifting and performance for the week. They get a point for inputting all their information weekly into that, kind of a bonus point. And then this morning, those kids that made season best, so that bettered their 10-yard fly we did this morning, for example, that they did on the preliminary a week ago. If they ran faster than that, they got to ring the bell and kind of have a PR and extra point. So a lot of fun.
Ryan, do you have any kids come out that are not involved in sports? Because this is, my understanding, open to all.
Open to everyone.
But do you get any of those kids?
What
do you think?
No, not usually. No, it's geared towards, right now we have 3 levels. We went through evaluation of every kid to place them in the right spot for the weight room. If they're not ready for weight, they still have functional movement, put them in there. So we do have some introductory type things, mostly with our younger kids. And then we have our speed and agility development in the mornings, where they're just working on bigger, faster shoulders.
Any other questions for Ryan? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, we do not have Cloud Peak or high school representation, but we do have Clear Creek Middle School. Are there any questions for Brandon?
How many kids do you have in summer school, Brandon?
We have 30 signed up. We're having about 20, between 20 and 25 usually come on everything so far.
How many teachers?
4. And that kind of allows us to do math, social studies, language arts, and science. Need some help, yeah. So,
Any other questions? Thank you, Brandon.
All right.
You can represent Craig. All the same way.
That could be interesting. So I included, I think the highlight I wanted to speak to is the data. And, we've been really focused using the FOSS and PNL last few years and really focusing on comprehension and fluency. And, in the last couple of years, there's been a huge swing nationally to just focusing on science of reading, which is phonemic awareness and phonological processing. And we've really tried to find that balance because that's important. But interestingly, in January, as we know, we shifted to more of that approach. Not that we stopped putting focus on the functional comprehension, guided reading, interactive read alouds, but we backed off, if you will, and went strongly in the science of reading approach. Interestingly, if you look at the data, sorry, I'm sounding just like Dr. Miller.
That's okay.
It's easy on some of us.
On the benchmarking, we typically in the spring in all three grade areas come into that 88% proficiency mark, and we actually dropped in those areas with our benchmarking from Christmas. And what that told me was when you look at FastBridge, those scores in reading are pretty phenomenal. Kindergarten ended up at 89% proficient, first grade 70%, and second grade 89%. And we've never had to this date real strong FastBridge scoring. So it told me that our focus on that phonemic phonics awareness, the science of reading, supported because that's what FastBridge tests. And so it is absolutely essential that we find that critical balance between the whole language and the science of reading and what it should be. And so I included in your report our schedule for next year, and it's very intentional. And we went through and figured out what research recommended for time allotments in each of the areas of literacy and math, and we intentionally built a schedule for that. So those are the types that we're going to be operating on much more focused than what, not that we haven't been focused, but it's much more balanced, if you will. And then math, using FastBridge again, 92% proficient at kindergarten, 96% proficient at first grade, and 91% at second grade. That's pretty basic.
Yes.
Another thing that was exciting, Dr. Miller shared 2 more pieces of data with me, so thank you for that. Just like about an hour ago. And in the FastBridge, in second grade FastBridge A reading, which is different, remember, than kindergarten first, because that's 1-to-1 early reading assessment. The second grade take it online. 40% of those students are according to the test, which I get in second grade. That's a long way from college, but they're predicted to be on a college pathway. 50% are in a low risk in that reading, and 10% are at some or high risk. And then in math, 57% of them are on a college pathway for success, 32% low risk, and 11% at some or high risk. So that, it's pretty exciting. I think we're doing the right things, but I want to get literacy back to more of a balanced approach. The last piece, which again wasn't just because I just got it this afternoon, the why talk for me is a bit of a frustration because it's, as you've heard me say, it's 12 questions in ELA at the end of the year and 12 questions in math. So in perspective, if they have one geometry question on that math assessment and the bird hits the window or they just flat miss it, it can really change their score. The other way is how the state scores them. ELA scored, you may have, for example, a Venn diagram question on the reading part of that, and there could be, you could have 6 or 7 options of answers in there of like a Venn diagram is different, similar, and they could miss one of those and miss the entire problem. Math, on the other hand, you could have 3 components to the answer. They might miss one, but they'll give them credit for part of the answer. So it's not even scored equitably, if you will. But last year we had 20% in math hit proficiency, and this year we had 32%. No, I'm not. 50% hit proficiency in math. So we had a 30% gain there. And then in ELA, we had 32% were proficient last year. And this year we had 57%. So we had 25% gain. So not like the test, it showed that we're making progress. So anyway, beyond that question.
Thank you for the data. How long did they get to take these tests? I mean, the segment. Answer the 12
They're
questions.
not time.
Oh, they're not?
There's components of fast break that are, but they're pretty generous. So.
But attention span.
Mm-hmm. 70.
I wouldn't have the attention span. I'd be looking at the bird that hit the window.
Which happens. Or the test doesn't cooperate, especially in life. Really test at second grade. Sometimes you can get to work and sometimes it doesn't.
Summer school?
Going well. We have 3 teachers and 1 para. We had 25 that were agreeing to come, and of those, we've had an average of 18 to 21 showing. So they're doing theme days. Last week was space. This week is ocean hybrid. So they're bringing some fun into fun learning and doing a lot of reading and writing math. It's nice. So.
Any questions? Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that.
Okay, JC, Jake.
So you took the kids down to the University of Wyoming, if I remember, and you also took them to the trade school.
Yes, we went to Wyotech as well as University of Wyoming. There was rotations at University of Wyoming to see different segments.
I'm tickled you did that. I really like seeing that. Was it a benefit for the kids to help make their minds?
It was.
Do you take juniors and seniors or just seniors?
We took 7th through 11th
grade.
grade.
Oh, awesome.
The goal with that is that over the next 5 years, we're not going to just see the University of Wyoming. We're going to branch out. Next year, we're actually going to go to the Black Hills side and see what we have towards Black Hills. That is going to include Gillette College and then on out into industry and Black Hills State as well.
Yeah, so for me, I'd love to see you keep it in state because I have to with it. I'd love to see you take those kids to Torrington, Sheridan, Gillette, wherever it might happen to be. And I just think that's a great program. I'm glad you implemented the trade school into there so more kids move towards that. So I appreciate you doing it.
Yep, that went well. We were expecting less enthusiasm for doing it again the next year out of the students because it was a pretty strenuous day. But there was 85 to 90% saying, yes, I really enjoyed it. This is something I got positive out of it. Kids that maybe weren't so positive going on the trip came back with a different perspective, and we're looking forward to next year. So that's what we'll do.
Jake, just a little inside word about that. Your elementary presentation.
Well, we'll get them. We'll make sure that link goes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Is Kinder Boost off to it?
Kinder Boost registration will begin right after July 1st. We send out a blast to the parents on the last day of school, explaining to parents that please expect a Kinder Boost program starting. The coordinators will be meeting in, I think, late July, first part of August, and be making contact with those families and getting involved. We're looking at 6 kinder-age students being in kindergarten next year, and from what I gather, possibly up to 9 Kinder Boost. So that gets us that feeder program to come in.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Hanson.
Tell us about your grant.
Okay, yeah. So we got a pretty nice grant through the L. Hogan Foundation.
if that name is familiar, they're the same folks that on the National Board Certification for Teachers help decide with that. So it's $210,000 over 3 years, and we're going to use that money to grow the culinary program. Right now, we've got Chef Sam half-time, and so he teaches one class for BHS and one class for US. So we're going to turn the one class that we're able to offer now into a sequence of 3 classes, and I'm working with Mr. Evans, he's helping me out, so that we get a sequence that's a CPE program that will be pretty well. And for Buffalo High School, I think the thing that I'm most excited about is the collaborative nature of what we're going to be doing. If you read what I wrote there, we'll be collaborating with Friends Feeding Friends and also the food pantry. So the idea is that our students will be taking food supplies. I say raw food, but then it sounds like we're using raw food supplies and turning those into ready to heat or ready to eat meals that can then be provided at the food pantry. Also be utilized by students in district who could use them. So we just really think that, like all things, students can benefit more when they know that somebody's going to be using the product of their labors. So instead of just, we're going to make whatever today, and then we get ourselves back at school, when they know that it's going to go out to the community, there's a little more riding on it. And we know that there are plenty of jobs in the food industry, both here in Buffalo and Northeast Wyoming, anywhere kids might actually go. So the development of the program should lead to 2 potential certifications.
How many students did you have at VHS taking that course? Was there a waiting list?
How many VHS students were in the class? Fewer than 12. Well, there's only so many. And truly, talking with Chef Sam, really there should only be about 8 kids in the kitchen at a time. You've got big high school kids in the area used to be the Family Consumer Sciences kitchen there, and you put a couple big kids in those kitchens, it fills up pretty fast. So we're going to try to offer multiple sections over time, keeping that number where it should be, so kids can learn as much as possible. This first year of it, just so everybody knows, it's going to be a building. We're going to take our time, develop a curriculum, Jeff, Sam, and I together, make sure we've got something really good for this year's the 23-24 year. So for 24-25, will be the first year that we have the full development of the sequence of classes.
Mr. Hansen, do you have the equipment that you need, or will this grant?
We've got some pretty good equipment. A lot of which came from the culinary program at Sheridan College. But there's money written into this grant to improve what we have as well. And some of that will come. One of the certifications, Pro Start certification, which is really a cool class of certification. It's through the Restaurants Association nationwide. It's recognized anywhere. So once we kind of get that going, we'll have a better idea of what we can purchase to most efficiently teach that class and help those kids get that certification as well. That's going to be really cool because it's competitive. Kids get to travel and go compete against other classes of culinary students. So, yeah.
So when we signed a contract with Bonner Mountain to start this, they did put in new ovens. They did a certain amount of money if we did yearly. So that's what we're doing. New funds to help support the kickstart. And now Mike's grant's going to kick it off even more.
$70,000 a year is pretty good amount of money for 8 to 12 kids.
Well, hopefully there'll be more kids than that in the program. When you talk about moving a staff member from part-time to full-time, that can eat up dollars pretty quick too. So
it does cover salary too.
Yes, yeah. This is one that's just equipment and supplies.
Yeah,
that makes more sense. Yeah.
Enrollment, you said you have 33 students at this point that will start the new school year.
Yes.
Is that the max amount of students you all take right now?
Well, I feel like you all ask me that every year. Yeah, it's about when the School Facilities Commission came through. They said we were about at 90% of our maximum for the space. So what does that mean exactly, right? We're really close, Jody. Our whole thing is you just want to make sure every district area kid is in the best school for them. And so it does lead to some kind of tough conversations about, we don't have room now, so maybe it's no for now, but apply in the semester after we have some kids graduate and as room becomes available. So, but yeah, I think we just had about twice as many applications as we had spots.
Yeah, like 20.
Yes, ma'am, 21.
The exit interviews said you have been killing it. Everybody loved the school. They were thrilled. Did not know if they would made it without. So as an attaboy to the team, because boy, the students think you guys are right on top of it.
That's we've got two goals. One of them is to provide an alternative pathway to graduation, and the other one is for them to essentially enjoy getting there. And that second part actually is what drives the first thing. So so long as they know that they've got a crew rooting for them, they're going to do pretty well. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, we're on the director's reports, facilities, John. It's a busy man.
You have a crisis of the month for us this round?
I'm gonna say,
No. Oh, good. Now that you say it.
Madam Chair, John explained that she said the district was going to get back $6,000 for the playground that needed repairs. Right. Okay. Are they going to come repair it?
No, they did come repair it. They failed.
They're going to come repair it again?
It's beyond repair.
So what are you going to do?
I've asked KLNA engineers to come give me a price quote to look at the playground. The ground underneath it is gone. What is heaved up, the sand, there's no drainage, the drainage is correct, concrete's even. It's blowing up. Anytime you'd like to, I can take you guys over there and show you the playground. And Summit Rec has been great from day one when it started to fail. On offering that refund of $6,000 and trying to come back and fix it. Basically, you're putting a Band-Aid on it.
Well, and that was going to be my question. Is $6,000 enough? Because wasn't that like a $200,000?
That was just put a cap on it, quarter-inch cap.
So
this is going to go upwards of $500,000.
So my question is $6,000 enough to cover it? I guess
no. We're just getting our money back that we paid as a district for our major maintenance funds.
Understand that.
It failed, so we're getting our money back. Some stand behind it. We tried working it. They couldn't get here before school started last year. Yeah, anytime you guys would like to take a look at that. In the wintertime, it's the most impressive.
John, your engineers, what do you got to do? Dig it up, put some gravel under it, they got to put some French drains. What do you need to do there? You got to
put
get
a
the
drain
frost
system, let the engineer professionals know the drain. That's porous, that's above my pay grade, let them figure out how they're going to get the water out of there and maintain our investment. Let them put their name on it. I, as a facility director, don't want to waste dollars. I want to have it done and have it done. You look at the playground at Meadowlark Elementary, the surface staff versus the surface, and look at the technology and how it's changed. There's newer, better stuff. So, winter's hard on everything. We're also going to possibly look at it, talk to Mr. Anderson about it. We have play structure out there in the wintertime. It is in the shade all winter. So it's froze. And when the new surface goes in, something that's been done when I started here, we put snow removal. Not intended. So we're looking at possibly moving that play structure to the sunny side so we can thaw and keep the slips and trips for the kiddos.
The good news is you haven't had to turn irrigation on too much. You shouldn't have had to.
But they're mowing like crazy.
Well, we're just getting all the brakes fixed, Dave, where we can turn it on. Winter was a little hard on it.
So, John, hate to ask, but were they not blown out properly?
I was blown out. a section of the ground and it pinched it so hard it broke that pipe.
So
They used all thin.
So my hope would be, as you guys replace some of this stuff, I hope you put some rather than PVC.
No, we do not have the tools for poly. We don't poly fusing equipment. That's another.
Well, you go downtown. It's not.
Again, that's dollars I don't have budgeted for renting poly every time we have a break.
But it with poly is once you put it in,
Reduces the shear force a lot when you get that rusty.
Yeah. Well, what we do put in the ground is we go to thick wall.
Well, I trust Mr. Zink. He'll do what's best.
Yep.
Thank you.
And demolition is going on. So anyone would like to see anything?
Those are
Well,
some
we
gnarly
can take
pictures.
you through.
Thank you, John.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
The last picture, John, what is that of? Is that you got a Kubota pulling
That's our new top dresser.
what does that mean? Is that a fertilizer?
No.
Applied fertilizer?
We put sand in it for compost, and we're able to level the field. It puts a level coat of sand out there. So what we do is we went in, fertilized, did all that, mowed it, overseeded the field, then we went in and sanded it out. What it does is try to fill in any low spots, breakers, stuff like that. So it's a pretty sweet little tool.
I couldn't figure out what it was.
Before the district had was a newer spreader. Would work great at range. Runs out real quick, and for the fact that this is actually made for materials.
Did you take it to KC and use it?
We will be taking it. We just got it. The district, I don't know if I talked about this last month. We have Mr. Mader. We met with Scott. Neely. He's the owner of the 41 Ranch and CWC pit out there. We've come to an agreement where he wants to help the school district out with material out of their coal pit. So I threw a budget number at him, $4,000, and he's matching $4,000. And just wants sponsorship, and Mayor agreed to, and he wants to continue the relationship. He doesn't even have kids in the district.
Yeah, so thanks to Wade Taylor, I'm sure Wade was instrumental in getting that set up.
Yeah, the big thing, we trucked it with our little 4-yard dump truck. VHS field to try it out. We're trying to line out some trucks. Waiting for the next physical year opens up.
No more spending.
Well, I will tell you this, like I said, where the fields are now, as opposed to 3 years ago, there's no.
And the sod is being cut out at our field for the irrigation repairs there. So that's all, that wire all patched together. We got 3 zones hooked together. It's old. Putting in new valves and all that. Well, anyways, we're cutting the sod out of there. And you see on the Buffalo Hazard High School athletic field where the brown spots were on the edge of the ice burn and just killed it. We're cutting all that out and putting that sod in there. Try to get that. Because in the contract, we're putting new sod in there.
Thank you. Mr. Roski.
All right, nutritional services.
Ricky had a busy year. I've talked a little bit before, and I noticed our numbers, for instance, in February of 2022, we did right at 14,000 lunches. And then February 23, we were at 10,000.
Yes.
540.
I would just say it's largely due to the fact that meals are no longer free. So
Are these kids not buying a lunch then, and they're not eating? Or
hopefully they're bringing it from home or bringing something from home. I mean, being at the elementary school, I've not seen any kids not eat. I don't think at Meadowlark and Clear Creek in high school, they don't need to, or they go out, or they go home. Clear Creek probably not go home. They buy the heck out of a la carte. I should have put it in there. We spent about $11,000 on a la carte items, and made in profit about 30,000 just on the snacks and stuff that they. So.
Very few that don't.
Yeah.
Very few.
So high school, I'm hoping that when they leave, they go get something or going home or something. That's what I would say. Largely. I started making phone calls today for all students with negative balances. I think I got through about 15 this afternoon before I had to leave, and they're all saying, okay, yep, I'll get in, I'll make payment online. Some of them gave me card information over the phone, so I processed those. They're all so far willing, but we have about $7,400 in debt.
Any other questions?
So Ricky, okay, so you're doing your diligence and getting those negative balances when we haven't seen those for a couple of years. What happens when we start a new fiscal year and we don't have those balances paid?
It rolls over into the next year. We do have some donations that we still need to apply, but hopefully, some.
So how long, I know we had discussed earlier about
We make a transfer. We make the transfer from general fund to lunch and lunch, and part of that would be bad debt. So if we give $150,000 to the nutrition program, part of it will journal entry that as cover the bad debt because she can't carry bad debt from.
So because we had a discussion on unpaid balances that we were going to.
And they're working really hard. Principals are making those phone calls. And she's calling.
Principals are calling.
I guess all we can do is phone calls, but and I understand. I get it. I just, how many, progressively, we look projectually, how many years?
I think.
And kids have to eat. Right? You don't feed kids. You're not. So I'm totally agree. So I just.
Madam Chair, I think could we create a policy where we return them on their collection agency?
There is, and we revised that this year. I don't remember what the amount was.
Yeah,
that we do, but yes,
it'll cost more than $7,400 to get $7,400 back.
Yeah. We don't even get.
But it was on an individual basis, wasn't it? $500.
It was.
Oh, you push out.
Madam Chair. Ricky, I don't know if I saw this in your report or not, and I did tell you it's on the sidelines, but for everyone else, Ricky sent out the survey for the lunches, and for those who don't have kids, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hope
And hooray to you for feeding kids all year. I think that's awesome. It's a job I couldn't do, so thank you so much.
We did get some good feedback. There's probably 5, 6, 7 maybe items that I'll pull from the menu just because they, I went from if 70% or more of the kids liked it or kind of liked it, then I'm going to probably keep it. And then less than that, then so.
What else? Thank you, Ricky.
Appreciate it.
Okay, technology. Christy.
Anything you like highlight for us, Christy, or just rock and roll?
Busy season.
Madam Chair, just a comment to you is the number of repairs you're doing is significantly less than they used to be. Yeah, it is important, on camera, it's way less. So I don't know if that means the kids are taking better care of stuff, but anyhow, I'd like to see that.
COVID probably be the number on sheets.
Yeah, we have a lot of reports.
Adam with them 24/7.
I saw your numbers, and I'm pretty sure all 3 of my children were in more than 3 of these guys. So
we still have a high school repairs to do too.
Oh.
All right, transportation.
Madam Chair, so Phil, I read your report, and I'm trying to find here that that we had a driver who we guaranteed some hours to, but then we took the hours away?
Okay, so what we've done there is we have not taken those hours away from those drivers. We've rephrased that. It used to be you would guaranteed a couple hours to drive in the morning. If your route was only an hour and a half, we would guarantee you got 2 hours. We're still allowing those drivers to have those hours. However, we have to work them during that time. So we're asking them to come in and do other duties, such as clean on their buses and things like that. So some of the drivers are in a little bit of a disturbance with the way that's phrased, because they're coming off of what's considered guaranteed time to actually having to be there and work for those hours. We could probably work most of our drivers, any of them up to 30 hours a week. Then we would have the benefit of working them into, the benefit packages as well. It's just a matter of they will have to come in and actually be present and working during those times.
Thank you.
I like to report good and bad, the uglies.
And, and thank your mechanics and yourself for stepping up driving the buses when you didn't have anybody to do it.
Yeah, we had,
Good.
especially the mechanics, that was a piece that they weren't hired for, but they are credentialed, and we utilize them extensively, even on activity trips, out of town. Mechanics were leaving and taking activity trips, a lot of shuttling here in town. So kudos to them. I really appreciate their efforts.
How about our plan?
Okay, so Mr. Roski and I, we're going to go pretty much worldwide with this. What we want to do is we're going to start doing some recruitment events. Maybe bring the radio stations in, have an open house up at the bus barn, maybe some mass media, send out something through the school district, thrill share program to all, all the students and staff and everybody, so help us as a recruit piece. I think that if the community could understand the dire straits we're in with not being able to get transportation help, I think they would understand more of where we're at, and we would be able to maybe get some of those pieces in place. Mr. Mayor, we really appreciate your students and the successes they have, but we're at a point where we may have to use some of those activity drivers just to get up to school. And those hours may be eaten up. Where, I hate to be this guy, and I hate to say this, but maybe the football team doesn't get to go this week because we had to use all the drivers to get up to school. And we're at that point. We've seen the sand slowly coming out of this hourglass. We've talked about this. We're beating a dead horse over it. It's nationwide. It's not just here in Wyoming, and it's across all industries. But the recruitment, we need to work on that piece. We need to let Johnson County know that we are in dire straits when it comes to transportation and drivers. Our creativity, such as using the mechanics and myself, starting to utilize more of the Suburbans and getting some of the staff members that don't have CDLs to take some of the kids around. Those are only Band-Aids. We really need full certified CDL holding drivers that are committed to come and drive for us and get up and down the road. So I think if the community understands that, I think if they understand the opportunities that we have, especially the fact that we're willing to work them all the way up into a benefit package, these are not just little 1-2 hour gigs anymore. We have lots of work that can be done, and we can find other things that we can do. Maybe work dual roles, with other departments, whether it be janitorial or paras and things like that. I just hope that we can recruit and get some new faces. We're not at the end of our rope yet, but it does take about 6 weeks, 4 to 5, if you're really on it, to come in and get a new CDL and get trained, get going on that. So with that being said, the clock is ticking. So we're going to do some fun things. We've made some improvements up at the bus barn, and there's some things in our mechanic shop that we'd like to show off. So we're going to do some open houses, maybe have some barbecue, and do some of those things to get the people there. Maybe we can invite the radio station down, guys have all heard on the radio when you're traveling, hey, we're down here at Ed's used car sales and we're having hot dogs, come stop in and see us. But we want to do that with Bus Barn and let, maybe the littles come in and go through the buses and see what that's like. Maybe we can offer some bus rides for them as well and just show off what we have because I did have the opportunity the other day to take the State Facilities Commission around Northeast Wyoming and got to see what some of the other school districts have, particularly Campbell County. We toured their transportation department, and we have a really nice facility, comparatively speaking, to one of what we consider richer transportation departments. We've got a really nice facility, and I think we need to see it, and I think we've got an excellent staff, and I want our community to be able to come in and see the culture that we have, and that may bring them to the table where, hey, Grandpa, maybe you should start driving the bus a little bit more. Or, hey, I could do this and, as well as deliver pizzas or whatever it be. So, but I want to end, my comments with the fact that we are at that point where we have to do something, or we're going to have to send 4 buses in 4 directions, north, east, south, and west, and everybody's going to have to come meet us because we're not able to access everybody's front door at this point because we don't have the staff for it. So hopefully we can turn that all around.
Mr. McCann, in all my years of living here, I've never been to the bus barn, so I'm super excited to come see what kind of facility you have. I guess my question is, and I know, I feel like we kind of talked about this when I was first on the board 3 years ago, but is there something we as a district do to support people that don't have a CDL coming in? Is there something that we do to support them to get their CDL?
Of course.
Okay.
Mainly, we pay them to get their CDL. So we have paid training available right now. So from the moment that you come on and you pass the background checks, and we hire you, as soon as you start watching videos and we start training you, we're paying you that bus driver wage to get that CDL.
So here's the problem to that. So we're also creating a document. We train them, and then they go get a $10 more an hour job.
Yeah.
So
We're
part of
signing
that,
those.
part of that training is they have to stay with the district.
Before they get the money.
No, they get trained. They're getting paid to get trained. Then if they get their certification, they're not. They don't come back to drive.
So we need to have sign a letter of a commitment letter for at least a year.
So one of the things that Bridget, I know it's been a while, but one of the things that Bridget and Amanda helped with is we do have a draft document that we hire people. There's a
Also talk about the I said that you have enough work to give people 30 hours a week, so they could qualify for a benefits package. I mean, I think we had discussion on that. We had Connie look into that with the insurance of where we would need to be with that. And so, I mean, just letting people know that piece, because while you pay benefits every month, we sure need them. People sure need them. And I'm excited. I think it's a great thing for you guys are driving force to get some new bus drivers. All sharing information.
So I've asked Bill to get out a bus so people can actually sit. They can't drive it until they're certified, but maybe they can sit behind the wheel and pretend to see what it looks like. Bus rides, get the radio station up there, get the board there. But probably the best way to start advertising is getting out to parents.
Okay, principals, those will be your other assigned duties.
In addition to your other duties.
So Bill, when I know we're short and all the things, but like in your best world of worlds, like how many are you talking? I have no idea exactly how many routes there are, and so when you're in the midst of football season and volleyball going on, and you have your regular routes, what are you looking at? As a community member, I'm not 100% sure physically what you need. I know what you need, but I don't know.
So Dr. Miller enjoys data, so I compiled this, the drivers we had from 2019 to
And it shows both KC activity substitutes, as well as route drivers. So as you can see, COVID did put a spin on everything, including transportation. As you can see, we flopped. We went from 8 drivers this last year, with 4 substitute drivers and 2 activity drivers. We now have 4 route drivers that are going to be coming back. One of those is a special needs driver. And then we have 8 of them that have committed. So everybody who has left us currently this year that is still able to drive, if they didn't take retirement because of medical reasons, has said they will come back and be a substitute driver. They just can't commit their life to daily driving. So we've kept them on, it kept their toe in the water, because that's how we were successful last year. As you guys saw, we had several of our substitute drivers that were almost getting full-time status as a substitute. So we were utilizing a lot of those. I'm pleased to announce that KC hasn't had too much of a rollover. They're looking really well down there. However, I would point out to you the 3 sub drivers in KC are actually teachers or other facility people that we have to work with Mr. Evans to cover their schedules to be able to use them as a transportation piece. And sometimes he's magically done that for us, and he said, hey, I'll get someone in there so she can come drive or he can come drive, and we appreciate that a lot, Mr. Evans. But that is something to look into, is those drivers are not outside waiting. They are actually in that school and have other duties. So I don't know if those numbers help you with your answer, but that's where we're at. Is we'd love to see that. Our activity drivers, it's very popular. That one will fill before a route driver position will, because there is that full-time status, and it's quite a commitment though to become an activity driver, because as you well know, with the cancellations and the scheduling and the different things around the state, sometimes you're not home for 2 weeks, and sometimes you're home for the week and you don't have anything to do that week. So we use them. Obviously, I brought in my activity drivers. Have been covering my mechanics because my mechanics were driving type of thing, just because the schedule works. So the beauty of it though is everybody that works for us up there, the culture that we have is everybody's got each other's back, and it's been really, really neat to take on this position. I've been here for only 5 months as transportation director, and I can count on every one of my team members, and that's really nice to say.
So Bill, what I'm happy to see is you just flip-flop some numbers. You still got the drivers, you just don't have the route drivers, but you have the subs filling. So
right, there's some movement internally. We've done a lot of negotiation to keep them on board and to keep them in the system, because as you know, as soon as we sever that tie, then we have to go back through background checks. We have to go through drug inquiries. We have to go back through that whole system again, which puts us out quite a ways. And we want to keep them on the system and keep them going because we need to use them.
See that knocks offline.
No, but it's shaking. Watch the video for it. It's shaking. There it goes again.
All right.
All right, superintendent's report. So with that, I just want to go over some real big highlights. I'm going to start out with the PLC Institute. I don't want to take that away from Steve. I'll go into some of that, but that was fascinating to see what we were able to do in an 8-hour period to switch things over on the first day, and then the work that happened among the schools and some of the feedback. So kudos to everybody that put in a lot of effort with that. But the big one is to Dr. Miller sitting right over there. So kudos to him with his efforts as we did with that. You heard Bill talk about the world tour, and that was fascinating. It made me realize through that touring piece that there's some pretty nice facilities in Johnson County. If you were aware, not only with the hospital, but with what was happening with the state facilities meeting on Thursday and Friday. There were cars parked everywhere outside. It was a pretty heated conversation on the first day. With the transition, they came out with the new rating scales on where schools come in, and we have a hill to climb. So, for example, Meadowlark, Clear Creek is above Meadowlark now on the rating scale being replaced. There are some other big things. We went from number 4 to 159. So there were some pretty big challenges that came out of that. So we're kind of in that transition of what that looks like for us. So people are trying to understand. It was very heated out in the lobby out here a couple times. But the reality is the state is adopting a new way of rating schools and facilities and how we get to that point. So even in talking with Mr. Zink, now it's time to start, now that the process in place is for us to start putting component projects out. And what that time frame looks like, and then looking at what buildings or how we can pursue the capital construction portion. So that is out on the table, but Bill, thank you for your driving. We had to take some opportunities to see some other places. But the reality is, I can say we honestly built some pretty strong relationships with some of the SFC people. And I will agree with Bill, when we've seen the facility at Campbell County, the Transportation Department, we have a lot to be grateful for. They have over 60 buses that they cannot house that are parked within the community or outside because they don't have a place to work or to work on them. They literally have just basically 2 bays to fix. Almost 190 buses, 2 bays inside, 2 bays outside, so a lot of work is done inside and out. Part of their roofing has settled over 12 inches on one corner in the last year. Campbell County High School has sewer problems to the point where if you're on the first floor, you don't want to be on the first floor when somebody flushes the toilet because it might flood the first floor. So anyway, they have a tree growing on a roof. We learned that. So when we take a look at what Mr. Zink and what previous people have done to maintain our facilities, we have some pretty nice facilities. So I believe it was a team effort. Mr. Zink's team showed off our robot, which, by the way, they thought was fascinating. Mr. Hansen put a wonderful brochure together, which had a great conversation with the gentleman all the way to Gillette about New West. So those were good things that happened on that Wednesday. We left here at 8 o'clock and we're time to return 4:30. So a really nice thank you card for all of us in town here. Made some connections. Now we're done with the State's Facilities Commission. Now we're going to do the State Board of Education here this week. So we are presenting at 11:30. We got that information today. Better than one day before. It's a couple days before. We will be presenting. Johnson County has a highlight opportunity since they're here, so we're going to present at 11:30 on Thursday. If any of the board members want to come see that, but again, I will remind you it is a state meeting, so I would not be surprised if there's a lot of stuff, a lot of vehicles parked outside for a couple of days as they prepare for that. We're going to do Jeb and Roy. We're going to do parent liaison. We're going to do sources of strength. We're going to do the Dr. Miller's videos, and we're going to do some of the student videos. So and then just kind of a quick update of what we're doing in Johnson County. So there'll be a 30-minute window there that we're presenting on that. So with that, knowing the time frame, are there any other questions for me as a board of trustees?
Okay, let's move on.
All right, curriculum and learning. Any questions for Dr. Miller?
Do we get white top down? Do you give us that or?
We've given them out to the principals so they can plan for all the, it's not public information yet.
Oh, it's not. Okay. Give you the secret handshake.
Yeah, it's a pretty secret.
Jan, if I may speak, the only reason I could share second grade is because it's not in the 3rd through 10th grade.
Right. Gotcha.
It's not top.
Thank you. Any other questions?
right, special services.
Are you gonna talk about the co-teaching? That's something that's different that we're doing?
No, we've been doing co-teaching for some time. It's extremely strong in elementary and both elementaries. But what we always have a shortage of paraprofessionals, and so we approached it as I've had better luck finding teachers than I have been able to find paras. And so we talked about how we can be more effective by having a co-taught classroom, at least in every grade level. And I think we are there finally. Even pre-K, we'll have a special teacher. And so then we can meet those children's. I think I could talk today. We can meet those students' needs with a teacher instead of 3 or 4 paraprofessionals. And as you can see from my I can't talk today to save my life. The number of people that I was able to hire, let's put it that way, you'll see quite a few new positions, and so we have been able to get not only a C teacher in each building, where before they were shared between buildings, we now have more of those co-taught classrooms. So that's where some of the new came from. Instead of hiring, we had, I want to say, 6 or 7 open paraprofessional positions. Instead of hiring so many paras, I was then able to hire teachers instead. So we've been very, very fortunate. Yep. So in the C, when the person came to give us some guidance on how to make our C program stronger, that was the first suggestion, was that we have somebody available in each building. It's really hard for a teacher that's having students struggling in both buildings who gets the teacher. And so that was one of their suggestions. We also run well-managed schools, or you've probably heard it as Boys Town training. We brought them back in. They're here in my office all of our C teachers, I think, except for one, via prior commitment with the basketball camp, but they were all able to attend, and so they have been able to work together with an amazing team of trainers that have come to help us make those programs stronger.
Do you have anything else you want
I'm just excited to fill those positions. I mean, to have, I can't tell you enough. Like when I post special ed positions, I always look at the state website, and there are between 50 and 60 open special ed positions always. And so when we opened up Frontline, and there were 8 or 9 applicants, that's huge, and speaks very highly for this district. I even had one of our teachers is coming from Campbell County. We've had people come from districts that are bigger, that pay more, but they want to be here with us, and so that's super exciting for me. So that was probably the highlight of my, and then well-managed schools. We're pretty lucky to be able to have them here.
Question? Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, just real quick too, one of the things that is going to ramp up in Val's world is federal grant applications on all of ours. So, unfortunately, we can spread the wealth among some of us in some of these other categories, but Val and her team take on one of the bigger grants. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's still not open today?
No.
Okay. So typically that's due July 1st. It's one of the bigger grants that has to be written and applied for, so hopefully there'll be an extension of that. But I think Val and her team needs to be kudos for the last 2 years. The rest of us, I've spread that wealth among some of us. Dr. Hans officially been requested to be in the system for next year, but that is definitely something that her staff takes on, and she does most of it. So I do appreciate that. So, okay. All right, business report. Connie, you're up.
Anything you'd like to go through?
Well, I want to, we're in the middle of Blitz audit, another audit on top of another audit, but it's a Blitz audit, so every district in the state is getting Blitz audit, and it was at risk and ELL students, and I just want to commend, whatever your name is, Ricky, stepping on that button, that I can't think of the name, Ricky, she had a list of 75 kids she had to report on, and I think there's down to maybe one or two exceptions that we can't find on paperwork for, so it's really a good thing. And the same with ELL. She had 75 students that she had to find and look up and get all that to them, and she put together a pretty cool system. She's got a tracker that's got links and things that she can just share with them, so it was really good. So I just want to, they did a lot of hard work and nothing that I could have done on that, so they. We're still in a holding pattern to get the final 100, so we can get an idea of what our revenue are. We're still just in the holding pattern. And
is everybody in the holding pattern?
Yep. So
why?
I'm sorry, what?
Why?
Well, due to the change in the fund model.
Oh, okay.
They're also waiting on the school facilities department to get their numbers in, and the personnel numbers aren't quite ready there either. Remember, our ADM actually went down, so we lost FTEs, and that really generates funding. So because we got an ECA, that helps putting that funding up a little bit, and then special ed is going to be a little bit higher in that reimbursement, but they're separating that out. So it's just kind of a holding pattern. I had great conversations with the state. He was here with the School Facilities Commission. He's on the commission, but he stopped and talked to us, and we had some great conversations. And so we're in a pretty good spot. So they're going to let us work through some issues.
Madam Chair, just a comment to your report here, Connie, is I'm glad to see that our local revenue is up $5.5 million. That tells me that our evaluation will go up. We're about $407 million right now. I'll go out on a limb and tell you we'll be close to $500 million next year, which helps everybody out. And going back to your mill levy and stuff, the amount of money that you guys are able to allocate, it will all go up. And it's not because of taxpayers. It's because of the energy development and what they do. That's why it's going.
So they were recommending, they were predicting it would be about 409. I called in the other day and it's 500.
Oh, it jumped that much. That's awesome.
Any other questions?
And so, like I say, when we had that methane development going on, you weren't here, but our revenue, we were almost at $1 billion. Okay, so we dropped way down. We're slowly getting kind of back.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Well, I feel like we had a pretty good discussion tonight. Right before we did listen to all of the applicants, I don't remember exactly how many, but it was over $600,000 worth of people who we have about, for this year, I think 340,000 to award, but we're meeting tomorrow night to do that. We didn't because we were still figuring this system out of the school board. So that's where it's at.
Sure. So when I looked at the report, and I looked at the menu to kind of find out, I know that this is work session anyway. So they had a year of scheduled meetings. So it's not, did they just like schedule them annually? Like, okay, so it'll be this, and do they say like it'll third Tuesday, whatever? I mean, like how do they?
So this is what, when I went to my first meeting, we sat down and said, okay, these are the days we're going to have a meeting. And usually it is the second Tuesday, and they take, typically we do not meet in June, but we are this year. And then I think there's one other month we don't meet. But then it's the second, it's the day after school board. Are we the second Monday? I should know this by now. So then records.
So maybe then when they get that decided, we just not on the website. It is not. It is not updated.
So
Just because I would like to just to see what's going on.
I think they've had some issues with that website this year, and I know the guy's been working on it. Just the forms were not. We've had some applicants who applied, and yeah, Mr. Hanson was one, and it somehow got put in 2024, so we didn't even see it until he contacted me, and I was like, oh, why are we not getting this one? And there were several others that entered wrong as well, so I know these has been working on
Somebody's gonna work on that
website,
getting it updated, because I think currently all that I could find was
yeah.
and
Okay.
I did receive the updated expenditure for 2022, but everything else that I read was 2021, and one of the reports on the mill, and it went down to cents. That was Dorothy Hill 2010. So that's been a minute or so ago. So thank you. If you just pass that on.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to update those things. Thanks.
Anything else? BOCES, I think next month will be a big report for there. I think that's big issues they're working on, so hopefully next month I'll have those. BOCES.
We have not had a meeting, so I have nothing to report.
I just like to say in the work session, it was brought up that our students have benefited over $200,000 from the BOCES group. I thought that was
Explain what you mean by that.
credits from school.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So,
yeah,
concurrent dual enrollment.
Right, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to pay college credit. Yeah. They don't have to pay.
Madam Chair.
At a mill, and then about $200,000.
But our students are directly.
But you're correct, Randy.
Yeah.
Last year, what the mill was, they got about 200.
I'm not buying into this one.
Good.
But I do have questions that we are actually spending $200,000 on our students for college every year. But that's I'm not going to fight 2 hours.
I can tell you that the majority of the money came from Campbell County for the BOCES program, administrative costs and whatnot, and that's part of the rub as to why they split off.
Madam Chair, can you tell us, is the mill that we levy for the BOCES program, that's the entire funding that the district pays for the continuing ed and dual enrollment? Or, excuse me, half of, yes, you're right, I misspoke that. But that's what we pay them for the dual enrollment, or do we pay in addition to that for dual enrollment?
I can't answer that, but it's that.
Okay, so we're going down some muddy water here, people, because it's not clear as what we're saying here. All right, Wendy explained it. There's the Sheridan College supports up to like 24 credits. There's a whole bunch of things here with the BOCES. So let's talk about the new transition and the old transition. So Campbell County paid. We didn't pay any administrative fees when we were with Campbell County. It just basically the mill went to them and it came back to us, the district. The same with Sheridan 1. Okay, that is the commitment that Sheridan College is making right now with the new Johnson Sheridan BOCES is whatever mill, half a mill, let me correct myself, half a mill comes in, it comes back. So Wendy and I, we sit down and we had a conversation because it's been very inconsistent. So, and then we had a conversation as a business office, and there's some inconsistency there on history before Connie and I got there. So the reality is where we set the parameters is the what we talked about and repeating it is we're going to set a percentage of every half a mil that goes to support Sheridan College, which is the supporting of the college courses, the building, and all that. And then there's going to be 15% that will be set aside. All right. for concurrent and dual enrollment costs that we don't, that are above and beyond. So like the books, the fees, and some of those things, and anything above and beyond 24 credits. So we're always doing that. Those credits that aren't free and do that. So we're going to commit that out of that. And then another 15% because BOCES is basically for CTE programs, create some type of application process with that funding for CTE programs. Campbell County had, so we had the table saw kickback, I'll just call it the anti-finger cutter, okay? That basically they funded out of their rec mill for Sheridan 1 and for Johnson County. So we need to make sure BOCES is also helping support the CTE. But we've never really established a percentage to establish budget. So I really feel we did that the other day. However, in a sidebar conversation before this meeting, and per Connie's conversation, we need to have a plan B and C. Because there is realistically, the BOCES and the rec district is unlike the school district, it's separate funding. If all of a sudden the minerals, and this is just hypothetical, I am not saying it's going to fall, the sky is going to fall, but we know we're going to ebb and flow, right? So we just went through a transition where we got a huge increase in our assessed value, so we received more revenue. Okay, there's a day and age where it could be just the same thing. We predict $10 million, and all of a sudden we're getting $1 million. There's no way we're going to pay 70%, I'm just using fingers, that if the revenue just stops, we got to have a commitment level. We're only paying what we're receiving type of thing. So we don't put ourselves in fine as a district. Because we are going to start leveraging not only these mills, but our federal funds and things like that to kind of come back to that leveraging our budget in 2025. So we got to make sure we're committing. We had a good conversation about that, but we have to have a plan B. If revenues went up this year, our local revenues, which is kind of honestly puts in a pickle because we're right on the edge, so it's a revenue flow. Well, it's the same for Sheridan College and it's the same for the rec district. Okay, we don't get the money that we're projecting. The state has to pay us back in the fall with what's called the shortfall grant. You don't get it, you don't get it. That's kind of where it's that's where we don't get the money. So we're looking at some of those things as we kind of move through. Okay, so I would like Wendy to maybe come back because it's not as simple as just saying concurrent dual enrollment, supporting the nursing programs, it's supporting a lot of things through this meld that supports the whole community with our BOCES. And Dave's been a part of the board for a long time. Right?
Well, not really. I think I've only been there 2 or 3 years. But Rich Hall was on there for a long time.
But there's
so Wendy, maybe you want to add to it because I know we have the agreement. It's been written up, and I'll just let you take over.
I'm not sure if I might. I apologize. I didn't speak during the hearing or whatever, but I appreciate very much the opportunity. Now, my name is Wendy Smith, and I'm Vice President for Sheridan College, and I get to be involved in our programmatic offerings over here in Johnson County. And I mean, first and foremost, we're here primarily because of our ability to offer many opportunities to high school students. The 200,000, just to go back to that number to help it make a little bit of sense, that has to do with the credits that they earned while in high school and didn't have to pay for it. So I heard Jack Tarter's name mentioned earlier. He's been a long-time advisory board member for us, and he repeatedly calls it the best scholarship out there. You know, if those students can take advantage of that while they're still in high school. And important for you to know, it also statistically increases a student's likelihood of earning that certificate, degree, credential to help them earn more money and live a good life. So there's a direct correlation between higher education and so our partnerships are all, I mean, we're in everything with you and available to people that are outside of high school as well, adult learners. So it's everything from CNA. You could earn all of the prereqs to enter our nursing program or dental hygiene program right here. You can take other paths within healthcare. You could become an emergency first responder. The CNA is a way in. we're working to bring medical assistant over here. That might be a hybrid thing. Take most of the classes from the Bomber Mountain Center and do some clinicals either here or some lab time probably in Sheridan. So there's lots of, back and forth opportunities. The Bomber Mountain Center and the culinary, opportunities are exciting. We can, we're discussing additional credentials there that are available, that are college credentials, even in addition to ProStart that you heard earlier. So there's just a lot of things that are available. And, oh, by the way, hopefully you're proud that you have a higher ed college presence in your town and can go to a performance on a Monday night at the library or take a class for fun, your own self, like learning, live that example that you all set every day. So it's a great partnership. Sheridan College is thankful for the partnership, and we're just hoping to make that 200,000 number even higher in the future. So I hope that helps, Madam Chair. Thank you for the
Madam
time.
Chair, Wendy, if I can ask you a question.
Sure.
You used to have a culinary program in Sheridan.
Yeah.
Was up there. What happened there? And was there no interest, and now we have interest?
Well, there was several factors coalesced. I'll start by saying that because for those of you that remember, in 2020 the college was facing a $4 million deficit annually, and so unfortunately, after looking at everything on the academic side of the house, the programs that were cut were culinary and hospitality. And primarily our enrollment had been culinary, and the reality is it was decreasing. The interest was waning. The real challenge has to do with, those students, they learn wonderful skills and the jobs are there, but we also have to work with our employers and try to get that pay up. But what has happened is now we're 3 years later, fast forward 3 years, and the state, through their research has said, what, hospitality and tourism, we all know, number 2 in our state, right? So we have actually revamped our curriculum. It's much more of a hospitality, hotel management, event management. There is a culinary aspect to it. So we're bringing back that curriculum, but it looks different. It looks very different if you literally even just look at the names of the courses and kind of what that was. So it's a little bit weird because we got rid of it, but we're bringing it back. I don't know that we'll ever go as far down the culinary road as we did operating a restaurant, things like that. For those of you that remember that we did that, but I could be wrong. Never say never, I guess. We're excited, and we really have a lot of interest at the dual and current level, not just with Johnson County, but with other school districts as well. And it makes sense. It's an employable skill. So, hope that answers the question.
It does, and so Mike, I hope you get to visit with her because they used to have the kids and go eat lunch there and stuff. Maybe you'll have a small program like that too, where we serve X amount of lunches a day and just get practice.
Sky's the limit.
There you go. Never say never.
Year to year, how many of our students are taking on dual enrollment, how much that would have cost, how much this grant or how much this mill is paying for that, how much the students are paying.
I'm not, something similar to that.
Yeah, I'm just asking. Because it sounds like a very small percentage of what we're doling out.
Yeah, I push that out, but I'll have you
We can.
Yes, we can. Answer your question. Yep.
That's shocker. Once again, I don't really care about all the other stuff. I want the whole.
Okay. We're at Leadership Governance 2.11. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This just has to do with our facilities, transportation, nutrition. I think we'll spend a lot of time on that today. I'm going to try something a little bit different with our leadership governance. I'm not sure if I can get it in July or August, where I can send it out to you and you can rate us on how we as a board are handling that. It's kind of like an evaluation process that we want some luck on ourselves. And that will help us for,
So Madam Chair, I've already mentioned to Dr. Miller that we'll try to create something virtual pushed out.
okay, great.
And he does have a year summative already kind of developed. So we are going to work with Sue Bellish after she comes back to help support that. Which I thought was a great.
Madam Chair, this brings up a fairly interesting question for me. Charles said we just had the facilities and grounds here. So Mr. Hanson, no doubt, is probably needed a nicer, bigger building. Okay. What's the take on that? Where does that rank?
It doesn't.
How come?
Because there is a lot of schools that are failing, and so to add to that, so we're going to have to work with the state to figure out where we're at with an alternative school, meeting those needs. So it's a ranking system of where that works, Dave. So I already talked with Mike about this. Some different approaches of what we look like, and I'm there. But I'm also going to say the boundaries. These are the conversations we're going to have as a board. At a certain point in time, Mike is turning away 20 people. Say, so what are the parameters? Do you want 100 kids in the alternative school? Do you want 200 kids in the alternative school? I mean, at some point in time, you have to develop. Talk about a shell game. Kids come from Buffalo High School to the alternative school. You got to be very careful. Now you're going to end up with 2 high schools in Johnson County once you start talking about numbers. Most alternative schools, okay, most alternative schools are a 9-12 school, but they serve only a certain percentage. So maybe we base it instead of a number, a percentage of kids, and then we'll have to start having those conversations about what that facility looks like. The Shipper School wasn't built. I'm just going to be very transparent. Wasn't built through the normal process. That's about as far as I want to go with that piece. There was a different funding avenue for that. And then some districts just are an older building. So it is something we need to look at. But to be transparent, after what we learned on Wednesday, when you go to Campbell County High School and you see what they got for a facility, and you talk with one of the people there, and the square footage of New West is the same as another alternative school in another district that serves just a few more kids, which I don't know how that's possible. But anyway, their look at their perspective is different. So you just got to take a political approach with that. And as I explained to you, in my mind, Brandon School should not be above Glory School as far as replacement. So it's the numbers. It's kind of a game. It's a square footage and kind of what that looks like. However, there are some great ideas that we passed along, and that creativity piece is you present to the board to get on that list for facility. Campbell County's been trying to get Campbell County High School up on the list for almost 7 years now.
Didn't they just build a new high school?
Okay. But they got 2 high schools, so they got Campbell. They do. So Campbell County High School has been on the list to be a rebuild for almost 7 years now. So you got to. I have to emphasize this more than once. This doesn't happen overnight, and I'm going to explain it to you as a board. 10 Sleep is a great example. This is years and years and years, so we've got to get on the list now. And I don't ever want to make a promise to say, yeah, we're going to go make this happen in 3 years. It's just not going to happen, especially with the political climate that we're in. And this is coming, and I'll speak directly for Campbell County. $1.25 billion they've given back in recapture to the state of Wyoming to build other buildings, and they're not able to get funding for their old high school. So that should paint a picture of the politics that kind of fall behind the building.
You also have to remember their evaluation is $4.7 billion, and ours is $407 billion. Now, Connie said it went up. That's the difference, and that's why they are a retail. That's why they get to pay.
But I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing the point they give that kind of money back to build other buildings in the state, and they can't get their own building built in community, that money is to go to build other buildings and they can't build their own. So through this commission. So there's some of those that you're absolutely right. They have a mineral industry, but can you understand the politics in Campbell County is if we give this much money for other schools, we can't take care of them. So there's some politics involved.
Okay. Consent agenda. Here we go. We have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. All right, now, whoa, the wrong way. All right, now we are actually now for action items. Okay, and the first one up. There we go. Let's go ahead and so we can discuss it. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Wait a minute, no, because it's got to be. I may have a motion for the intent to levy 1 mil for the Johnson County Recreation Board. Okay. Discussion.
We want to make sure the motion is 2 years.
That's, well, we have before us a 1 year and a 2 year. I guess we need to ask through our discussion if we want to amend and say we go to 2 years, so we only have a hearing once every 2 years.
I think in light of things and what Randy has brought up, I would recommend that we go one year at a time and see where our valuation is and how much that is. If it's at 507, it might be at 750 million next year. So let's do 1 year at a time.
Can you explain a little bit about the reasoning for 2 year again?
It's that on the record books, anything from January to July is actually deferred revenue, and it's a liability to them this year. And so they really, if we don't recommend a mill the following year, then they lose that money. So it's craziness of how the state statute was put together. They're paying monthly instead of when they're actually levied. So I know it's hard to explain.
You got to back up because I didn't follow you.
No.
So either way, they're going to carry that liability for the year before.
You guys keep the money and you allocate the money that you got last year. Not the money you're getting this year, but the money that last year. So you always have that money.
I think what Connie's saying is the money that is already collected is from this year is being added into our bank account as it comes in. And so say we get $100,000 this month, it gets put in there, but we technically cannot allocate that to next year because it's collected this year. Well, if we don't approve it, then we had all this collected money for 12 months, and say decide now we're not giving you a mill. Now we have to go back and say, where does this go? Because we collected this money and it goes back to the taxpayers, and how do we return it? That's the biggest problem with how it's.
But
That's as simple as I can.
if we do this for 2 years,
It's going to end the same way.
it's going to end the same way. Either way.
So that's both.
We could do it for 5 years, or 3 years, or
You're correct.
it doesn't matter. So I would agree that at the time, it's probably more.
Requested from Jackie and the board to go 2 years. It's totally.
So what I'm hearing is 1 year? We'll vote. Okay. All those in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You're voting on the motion.
Yes. That's motion.
And the 1 mil.
And the one mil.
Levy, 1 mil.
No. 1 mil.
This is
1
a,
year.
let me read the motion again. Okay.
You almost got it.
May I have a motion, this is what the motion said, for the intent to levy 1 mil for the Johnson County Recreation Board
For 1 year.
for 1 year.
Thank you.
That's-
That's what the motion says.
All right, everybody got it? We have a second?
We did.
I know, I'm just making sure we had a second. I'm
Yeah,
just
I think
making
we
sure.
said it properly. Then we voted, we just didn't get Randy.
We just, yes.
No.
You're a no. Okay. Motion is approved.
Madam Chair, point of order. Do we need to adopt this intent to levy resolution?
Yes, we do.
Tony, no?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't.
Did you read the levy? I mean, did you read the resolution?
To levy resolution. Whereas on the 12th day of June 2023, the Board of Trustees of Johnson County School District Number 1 approved an intent to levy mills for the Johnson County Recreation District and Sheridan Johnson Bochies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. And whereas notice of such levy hearing was published in the Buffalo Bulletin, a newspaper having general circulation in Johnson County, the county in which the district is located, on June 8, 2023. Whereas a public hearing was held concerning such intent to levy on the second Monday in June at 6 p.m., at which time all interested parties were given an opportunity to be heard. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Johnson County School District Number 1 that such an intent to levy is hereby approved and is in effect for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Madam Chair, I blew it. This is to approve the boat cheese as well.
That should have been read after Bochi.
I got out of order. This is on me. I
only reading it
after
once.
boat cheese. Sorry.
I was instructed too that we separate those two.
Yeah, you did, and I blew it. My bad.
So Jan, I will make a motion to.
Let me just get it right. May I have a motion for the intent to levy a half a mil for the coaches?
For 1 year.
1 year.
So
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving a half mil for coaches for 1 year, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Where are we at now? We're at superintendent evaluation. All right.
Dave, did I blow it again? Don't have to.
We have to sign this, yes.
Now we need to approve what
it's
Christie
been
just
read, and so now it needs to go around and sign whether you do it now or.
We'll do it at the
Okay.
end. And even if you didn't have it, we'll pass it. Now, remember what Sue said, once we have a vote, we're there.
Fine.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion to accept the superintendent evaluation as presented?
It's system.
System, I'm sorry.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the superintendent?
So Jan, on discussion, when I read through the evaluation system, you evaluate the superintendent on a goal set.
Yes.
But you don't evaluate them for Charles or in the future on their day-to-day performance and whatnot. So I would ask, is that the way you want to do it, only on their goals?
They're a little bit by their day-to-day performance, though.
Yes.
And the board can ask for whatever evidence of those goals achieved that we wish. So we can ask for performance evaluation.
And I shouldn't be talking because I wasn't able to be at the meeting.
No, but it's something that you need to know. We can qualify that for anybody by specifying what we wish to evaluate as proof that we're meeting the goals. So we can ask for day-to-day stuff.
And I wasn't on that committee. I know Jody was. You were. I forget who else was. You had somebody else on the committee. So you guys are good with it.
It's a good question.
I'm good with it.
But that also emphasizes the importance of establishing goals.
Precisely.
So when we're establishing goals and expectations for the year, we talked about SMART goals or achievable goals, but all of a sudden if you go to an evaluation and you get dinged for something you didn't know you were being held accountable for, I mean, that's why you as a board of trustees can say, hey, this is an area of growth, this is what you can work on. It's giving you an opportunity to actually set timeframes and dates, when we're going to do the evaluations, when we're going to do the goal setting. So for the public to know, like my evaluation was last week, so now over the next month, your data comes in, I put comments, it comes back to you as a board, and then you will approve my evaluation in the July board meeting. So now you have systems in place, and we've already, Heidi and I already came up with some tweaks because it is a new system. But I think the work that came out of it, it was, what do I say? There was a lot of good communication that took place. So here's some things, this is what we're doing. And so we will establish goals. I've been charged with establishing those goals and presenting them out to you so you guys can keep them, but we definitely need to establish them.
And as I understand, Charles, correct me if I'm wrong here, the super also gets to A, look at the goals, and B, look at what we're asking for as evidence when we would review them that next year. So the super will be aware when we make the goal what it is he's got to show us to prove that he's doing what we asked. So we'll all be part of the discussion, including the super. So we're not sneaky taking one in you that, we didn't know you were going to look at that. He'll be the other one too.
Good questions. All right. You bet.
So when we evaluate on these goals, it talks in here, purpose of evaluation, determine the effectiveness of the superintendent in achieving the goals of the district and adhering to job expectations. Is the job expectation, or do we look at the job description?
Think of it as both.
I don't think the job description is that I've even seen in the descriptions. I just think it's something. It doesn't. I am on the committee and I do approve of it. I just think that's something maybe we need a little more clarification. And what are we saying when we say adhering to job expectations? What are those expectations that we need?
I think the goals.
Not necessarily, I don't think. I mean, there's a lot of job expectations I have on my job, but it's not necessarily the goals that are set. Okay. Are you there? Are you there on time? Are you working your shift? Are you very, I don't know what they all are, and you base
the nuts and bolts.
So I don't know or if you want to change that. Because I don't feel like that was really evaluated. Most, I mean, there's a lot of things about job expectations, application formed from the job description. Goals are formed. What does Charles want to, what's his vision for Johnson in this district? And how does he want to achieve them? What are his goals to make that vision? We have a vision for what Charles and kind of what the goals in it.
But the goals are established by you as a board.
We did those together, yeah.
And would the expectations fall under leadership governance of what the superintendent's responsibility is, or the responsibility
Seems
is?
like the back half of those policies. I think you're right, so we need to define that.
Yeah.
Right, and then you should go back to the job description that they said and see if you're meeting the job description.
I don't know about, no, I think the leadership is where we should put the evaluation, not necessarily the job description.
I think you should look at both.
Spent a lot of time though developing the leadership governance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I believe the chairman's right, that the leadership governance This is actually what we're saying. This is what we insist on. The job description is more of a, here's an idea. That's my understanding of it. So if I'm
Not
wrong,
necessarily, Travis, because I think when you hire anybody, they hire on and you have this job description. But you need the job description. Are you doing what the job description says? Unless you want to tweak it, but like I say, so I think you have to incorporate both.
So I think the leadership governance is the job description. Because we're saying as a board, this is what we expect of our superintendent. Anyway. Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving this superintendent system, evaluation system, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, policy revision. We're on the second reading. This is for leave of absence. So may I have a motion to approve the policy GCVDI, for leave of absence?
So moved.
Make a second, please.
Oh.
Do you have any discussion? Pretty forthcoming.
Did anything change from the last time?
Yes, we are now going, well, no, 4 years instead of.
Same as first reading.
Right.
Same as
That's probably the biggest. Okay, all those in favor of approving the policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Policy is approved. Okay, now we are on to activity sponsors and coaches renewal. May I have a motion to approve the activity sponsors and coaches for the 2023-24 school year? May I have a second, please? Any discussion? All those in favor of the stated motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Okay, now we are on to Eureka Math. We have a motion to approve the Eureka Math Squared curriculum. Also, in this would be, if you've noticed, would be the resources. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, motion, please. And it is to approve the Eureka Math Squared curriculum and resources. And a second, please. Discussion? Mr. Miller, Dr. Would you like to say anything about it?
Lori and Jake, you can jump in at any time. But we really firmly believe in a pilot method. We want to make sure that these resources are going to be successful for our students. So we had several teachers working the new Eureka Square, just the updated version, and some teachers using the current version that we've had. And so we use data, we use conversation. We want our experts to be able to weigh in on the pros and cons of grading through Eureka Squared. And so based on input from our principals and their teachers, they wanted to move forward with Eureka Squared. With the cost tag on that, we are using federal funds. So we're trying to leverage our federal funds to update their math curriculum, in which they actually didn't have that opportunity a couple of years ago. Mr. Oski and I started, they approved the 612 SOAS curriculum, whereas K5 didn't really have that opportunity. So we're just trying to catch up with the secondary math.
In addition to that, we've been very diligent with our training. So there is PD tied to this so that staff members are not going to be going into a school year not being familiar with the new resource as a whole. So we have PD tied to this in August, so it'll be right there, fresh and new, and the teachers will be ready to unpack the classroom.
I think it's good to note too that it's the adoption of the Eureka Squared is truly staff driven and based on student need. They've had the original Eureka Squared for 7 years, and my second grade team asked to pilot this at the beginning of this year. And I think you've heard the change in data both in YTOP math and the Fastbridge math, and they've used it to fidelity. The Eureka Square this year, and really has led our buildings to at it. They feel it's a much process to the standards, and it's not so. I guess the other one was just so. There were so many strategies presented almost every single week. There was something new with whatever their focus was, and the students can keep up. Maybe the top 10, 15%, but the rest of them were just kind of left and just moved so quickly, and it just wasn't appropriate for most of our learners' needs. And this new Eureka Square has definitely been revamped to be much more palatable to the students.
So, Dr. Miller, just a couple questions. Coming out ESSER funds or grant?
Could be either ESSER or it could be Title I.
So you're not sure which one you apply?
We're going to leverage it the best way while we're juggling all these federal grants. So that's partially a con question, but we're not going to use general funds for this.
So is it just we have Eureka Math in this square. Is this just a new and improved math? Is that what you call it? Because we've been teaching math for 100-some years, and just 2 + 2 is they come up with a better way to teach it. I'm just asking because I'm not an educator.
Well, it's based on, like Lori said here, the strategies. There's systematic strategies of building skill sets, and it's as Eureka was, there was multiple strategies given to students at times, and it overwhelmed them. Whereas Eureka Squared lays it out a little more sequential.
So it's new textbooks, digital, everything. Is that?
There is digital, yes. There's digital components to this.
New textbooks and stuff?
It's a workbook.
New workbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discussion? All right, so I have all those in favor of approving the Eureka Squared curriculum and resources signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We have a new math program. Okay, from the board. I'd like to remind everyone that on next Monday, what's next? 19th, we will be having our second board retreat. Sue Bellish will be here. I thought last time went really well. It was great for our new ones, and it was great for you. And we have to come up with a way that we are going to evaluate ourselves for our peer review. Correct, Mr. Austin? Anything else from the board?
Well, let me go back. Effective school districts have a self-evaluation. So this is part of just creating systems in place where you as a board are evaluating yourself.
And that's
at some point of fashion on
leadership. That's why we're going to try. Again, that's Monday, 6 o'clock, and she holds to a time schedule. And we'll be finished at 8 o'clock. I hope you all can do it.
Madam Chair, with that real quick, how many people are going Thursday night to the shared retreat dinner with the other boards?
That's the.
What time?
I'm trying to work the schedule out.
They're asking this Thursday.
I'm not.
So if you could please look at your calendars and let Heidi know by Charlie asking for it.
I believe last year I was the only one who was able to go, and this year. Okay, other business, we had a discussion, HR position consideration. Kristen?
I just wondered, it's come up a couple of times, and just put conversation, the idea of whether we need an HR position for the district. And I just wanted to circle back to that, see what you guys think of it. I realize it's budget time and a half. Also, I know the position's expensive, but I feel like we do a lot of our HR work retroactively by having to use our legal counsel as our HR person, which she's phenomenal. I'm so grateful she does it. I just think we be nice to be a step ahead instead of putting out fires later. And it depends on how Charles feels about it too, but I feel like it would be beneficial for Charles to be able to focus on other matters instead of having to take that hat on and off several times a day. So I just wondered what you guys thought.
So for me, I'd just like to speak. So first of all, yeah, it's been a crazy 5 months, 6 months, 12 months. Amanda Ash is part of the human resource with Davis and Cannon that we've done a lot of work, especially in the last 5 months. Through this process, they reference it as a risk manager, not an HR person, just the Title IX issues, the personnel complaints is more of a risk management issue. So we've spent a lot of time together, but that managing of what that piece looks like, again, I appreciate it, but when we're going to start making some big cuts, I've asked them to actually, I just can't support hiring somebody until we get cuts. However, I'm not putting it off because it takes up a lot of time. It's very time consuming. So they're in the process of developing a flow chart of how you handle protocol, what the principal's responsibility is at each building level, and then passing that down, the protocol down to ADs, down to the building principals. What do you do in this scenario of events? Here's the flow chart, look at this. So they're working to make this more efficient and then provide the training so we can train some people to handle some of these HR issues or risk management things. So again, truly appreciate it. I know there's been a lot of work with them over the last 4 months, a lot of work. But the reality is they're trying to, one of the things I like about what Bridge is doing and Amanda's doing, they also know the school district's in the crunch, so how can we be more efficient? So they started that draft flow chart. I would like to see it by the end of July, so they're working on that. I'd like the ability to present that to you as board of trustees, and then maybe some of the training goes along with that. Is that fair?
Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I think this is a lot about too, wondering, and my question, or what I guess I wanted to figure out, Charles did answer. I was curious as to, what the funding for what we spent with using our attorney that we have working for us, as opposed to what we'd be adding for another administrative position. And then
so
I just look at the team, and Charles has the head of the team, and then the support of both his principals and his building administrators. So I'm not opposed, but I'm also not, I want to be fiscally responsible and use the funds that, that we're already putting out. And
I want to say this has been an extraordinary year. You have a federal investigation, you've had audits, you've had third-party investigations. So there's really, to say where that cost is, I think that kind of levels out. Because there's been a lot of main triggers that I would agree. The amount of money we spent just on this federal investigation was extraordinary. To save $1.7 million just to keep ourselves out of hot water. And I want to make it known that's because we had a whistleblower internally that were there. But what's the positive that came out of it? The positive came out of it, we changed procurement policies. We've changed some different things. We're the only district in Wyoming, and I want to be transparent when I say that. Other districts have spent money, but we put the brakes on because we were the only one we're probably the only district in the state that's on a corrective action plan for federal grants and been through a federal investigation with where that is. In addition to that, we paid money back to the state. We have another blitz audit, which I don't think will be as great as the last return funding. But there's some legal fees that I hope we don't see every year as we look through that. But I once we can say, and the business office can say where we're at with our funding, we can maybe look at a risk manager. Maybe there's some different things that can kind of help mitigate some of that. I will tell you, Amanda, who lives in Cheyenne right now, is going to live in Sheridan. She's moving up here, I think, this summer. So she's a little closer instead of some virtual things. That'll be a part of that process. But I will say what we hired in Davis and Cannon is pretty extraordinary with especially the HR piece. So I just need to do a better job of delegating, which I think is the direction we're at. But that delegating comes back to that flow chart of who's responsible for what. So hopefully that creates it.
So Jen, my comment would be is, I don't disagree with an HR person, but when you hire more staff and we know what the budget is, you got to give something up, So what are you willing to give up? And I'm going to go back to what Randy said at the last meeting. And I did look at the SR2, and the SRO officer is something that I really think could benefit this district. I thought.
So that is in the SR3 grant. So
it was in the 2.
So
I went back and looked also.
So SR3 is part of that, where it's a hybrid. But I must be transparent to the community and to you guys. We're going to balance our staff with what we're committed to and all that. We're right with SR3 funds, but maybe I need to get law enforcement in here, but they can't hire the people to stay afloat with that and to hire an SRO and maintain and sustain that for the long term. It's going to be super, super difficult too. Not that I don't want our schools safe and I don't want to do some of the programs that we're doing, but one SRO for 6 buildings that will end up probably spending the majority of their time at just athletic events and split between buildings and talking with our local law enforcement. It takes a right person to do it, and they're having a hard time with their staff with the right people to do the right job. So I get where you're coming from, but it is the same piece of that. But if you're committed to an SRO, we've got to have that same conversation. What's coming off the plate, and then what are we going to need with the full-time SRO in this district? And I'll speak for what I think. The parent liaison is making a huge improvement with our at-risk families and those younger groups. Our commitment this summer is to try to find a collaborative donors and community and thing to sustain that program. So there's a lot of great programs out there. But you're absolutely right, Dave. What comes on, something must come on.
And that would be the same with an HR.
I mean, it's in the paper. We're $2.9 million away in 3 weeks. That puts us $500,000 short of making payroll in July. That's a challenge. I mean, when the reality is that we're saying these things, and then, yeah, you play the, I'm starting to use Randy's terminology now, the shell game.
I don't think we should use that.
So you're moving on. But there's the shortfall that comes to that piece, because in 60 days, the way the 100, which she's waiting for to come back, we give it out, we're short deficit, and then we get it back. I mean, those are some things we need to change with legislation that I'm kind of talking about through this process. And, as we kind of move, so we do have some challenges. And I greatly appreciate the conversation. You've got to hear that. I don't necessarily think it's an HR, it's maybe more of a risk management position, that if we could open that up in the future or something that looks like that. But I'm hoping what Amanda and Bridget are trying to create for the district will solve some of those issues too.
So Charles, if I could ask, so we have a shortfall, we have to transfer some money. I'm still not clear, if you can explain it to me, why we pay the special ed out of the general fund says I know I asked you in March or April, and darn if I got my head around.
Okay, so if you remember, part of my goal is to start leveraging federal funding to support our budgets, all right? Well, part of that is you have special ed, which I just talked about, FAL. She has that grant that she's applied for. Well, in addition, in the state of Wyoming, we're one of the few states that has 100% reimbursable special ed, like transportation. Okay, we had over $300,000 and some that was out here in the federal grants that we should have been pushing into our general budget so that we get reimbursed for that. So we're pushing that in so that then those federal funds that she applies for, we can leverage to manage our budget. So this was the year to push some of those outside expenses into our general budget so that next year we get reimbursed for that to help with our fund.
So before, how often do you get reimbursed for special ed? Is it quarterly, semi-annually, or annually?
It's a monthly payment.
It's monthly,
So
okay, so you submit and they pay you with it,
Yeah.
okay, very good.
No. Sorry. So we submitted at the end of the year, right? On our
At the end of the year,
End of
and
the year.
June 30th.
At June 30th, actually August 14th is when the report is due. So let's say that our reimbursement equals $3 million. So they're gonna pay that back to us over 10 months.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's
so it's
not just all one
monthly
month,
payment,
it's
monthly payment.
It's monthly. It's the entitlement payment that we've all gotten forever. It's just now special. It's going to be different.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah.
They took it out of.
So,
Yeah.
I know, it's confusing too, Dave, and what I try to tell, sometimes I get a little frustrated with is, you live this 24/7, we don't. And so sometimes we need to hear it 3, 4, 5,
But I
a
need
dozen times.
I need the
so.
public and the board to understand that transition, that move was a strategic move to put things into our budget so that we can start using other resources. And I'm going to use Mike as an example. So, Dr. Hansen, sorry, Dr. Hansen. So he went out. He's supporting what we're doing with the culinary through that piece. Jake does it with Perkins Grant. He came in today and he used the verbiage that I do. Charles, there's cables tonight this next grant, okay, that he wants to apply for. Well, we're getting used to winding up cables and extending them, so we kind of know what that looks like. But we need to start doing it, and special ed is a very expensive endeavor. Is that a correct way of saying it? Every day can be different. So the more we can push into our general budget, which right now is 100% reimbursable, we're one of the few states in the nation that do it, that we're leveraging that so that we can have other funding to kind of support the programs on the outside. However, the complication to that is you have to meet the MOE. So once you spend it, you got to continue to spend it or you have to defend it. So now we're getting into the so complicated thing of special ed. But however, we interpreted that this new legislative law wouldn't impact till next year. However, it impacted now. So when it impacted now, that amount of money that we set into this impacted where we're at with this recapture or this overpayment thing. We were on track until we all learned that it was in that place. I don't know, I've probably made it more complicated than I need to, but it is complex. But the overall picture, Dave, is we're trying to push it into this fund so that we can use that other fund for other stuff down the road that is understood.
We get reimbursed.
We get reimbursed for this one.
Well, you're going to get reimbursed either way. If you wouldn't have took the money out of the general fund to pay for it, then you probably would have had money.
It has to be in the general fund to get reimbursed from the state.
Not your grants.
Okay. So do you get reimbursed from the state or the federal government?
State.
Is it special ed a federal?
It is.
Federal program.
We
So state gets reimbursed from the feds.
It's part of
Two buckets of money.
Two different buckets of money. This bucket of money that Val applies for, we don't get reimbursed for. We just get an allocate every year. We don't get to say, hey, how much we want. They just give us a number and say, you fill out all this paperwork and we might give you this money. And then whatever we have in the general fund is based on our actual expenditures. That's what they reimburse. So we're trying to take this pot over here, put it in our special ed, which is most districts do, which is reimbursable, and then allow us to use our federal grants to support special ed from the outside. So you're right on both occasions, but the reimbursable is only from the state. The federal government tells us how much.
Okay, the APQC training. APQC training.
Okay, so at the end of the month, combinational effort with Sheridan 3, Sheridan 1, potentially Sheridan 2, and Johnson. Okay, so this is a service I talked about. This is similar to, and I'm just going to use Douglas as an example. They brought them in along with a lot of other work. But it talks about doing a combination where we come in and they start looking at our scope and what we're doing as a district and start trying to find, what do I say, efficiencies, creating systems of efficiencies with how we manage people. So when somebody leaves, we're kind of already starting to do it. And somebody who comes in, you don't upset the apple cart. So they kind of come in, they look at your overall systems. So this would be a meeting with you as a board of trustees, and then we would bring in our supervisors. So this is facilities, technology, food service. We bring them in. We start looking at some of what those efficiencies are. So it's just kind of a kickoff, and then we would determine, kind of that work if we wanted to continue to work with them. But it is a professional development training for supervisors and for boards to kind of look at what we're doing as a district. Are we efficient? What are some of the things? What are policies or things that we need to have in place? So it is more of a supervision, a supervisor level type of training.
Where would it be held?
Well, it will be held at Sheridan College. We'll take that. Attend Sheridan College. If they give us a room, or if they will. If not, it will be in somebody's room, and then they will come to Johnson County for a half a day. There'll be Sheridan 3 and then Sheridan 1. So it's basically a presentation to the board, then an all-day training somewhere, Sheridan College, and then they'll be on-site for each individual district. And that is basically the image of it. So
Okay.
Travis, I have that document now. I haven't got it out, but I will copy that. So
All right, we've already talked about the picnic, and
but Charles, I want to be clear on that. I think you said it was this Thursday in July.
Two different invites.
Two different, yeah.
He's got a lot of picnics.
Lots of picnics.
The one at the end of July is not a picnic, it's a train.
You put in our picnic,
Okay, so
picnic was July 15th, back in June. But
okay.
it's in here, it says July.
It said July 15th.
Yeah.
So that's wrong. Is that correct?
I think you should say June.
What's that?
Yeah, it says July
I think the
15th.
picnic should say June.
Yeah, you have July
Not
15th.
July 15th.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I think we got
July.
two different events.
Okay, that's where I was confused.
It's
Yeah,
always been
yeah.
June.
Pretty easy to
Sorry.
scratch that.
So in the board agenda, I will apologize to the public that I put July 15th.
Maybe come one in July too then.
No.
No.
State Board of Education meeting, I think you've already covered that, Mr. Roski. And when is our presentation?
11:30.
Thursday?
So not to confuse it, but our presentation is Thursday at 11:30, and then the picnic is at Sheridan 3 at 6. Very busy day.
And another work session on June 28th, and that will be strictly budget, am I correct? Okay. And we already know that one of our board members went. I think that's awesome. And if you're not able to attend, please give Heidi a call. The July work session will be July 5th. And the board meeting will be July 12th.
So one of the things on the agenda that we'll talk
July 10th, excuse me.
that we'll talk about for the work session is it will be budget, but we're also going to have the AI committee, artificial intelligence, talk about we need to have some things in place by August. So there will be a group of very high-level presenters from our district presenting to you about challenges with artificial intelligence and how it's going to impact education and how we need to establish, I would say, guidelines, not rules, but similar thing, I guess, around what we're going to do with this new type of technology that is going to impact education. Okay.
And that would be at our work session, correct?
That is correct.
June 20th.
No, July.
All right. We have a motion to enter into executive session as per Wyoming Statute 16-4-405 for personnel matters.
So moved.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
There will not be any action items when we come out. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all.
I know.